Okay, so shalom everybody. We're continuing today our shiur on sota. We started yesterday. We read the psukim. I want to remind ourselves the psukim describe how the Kohen comes, and even though it's a very scary situation, the Kohen tries to give us courage, and he turns to us and he says to us that we should remember the episodes of Kriyas Yamsuf, and that should give us the power to find strength to cope. So I just want to say two things about Kriyas Yamsuf. Okay. One is that Kriyas Yamsuf is an episode where Kodesh Baruch Hu saved Am Yisrael, and that's what the Kohen is echoing. But we have to remind ourselves that the Kodesh Baruch Hu conditioned the Yeshua at Kriyas Yamsuf, Daber al Bnei Yisrael v'Yisau, that Am Yisrael had to take part, had to take the initiative. Meaning, when we say the Kodesh Baruch Hu is with you, it doesn't mean that he does it for us. It means that he helps us when we take responsibility over our fate and our future. That's one thing to remember. The second issue is that Kriyas Yamsuf is really very, very central in our historical memory, in our prayers. I mean, just remind yourself that every day we say Oz Yashir Moshe Uvnei Israel, we say Shirat Hayam, and if you ask yourselves why do we say it, so the explanation is it's really not part of Psukei de Zimra because it's not part of Shirei David. Psukei de Zimra, we say Baruch Sha'amar, Uv'Shirei David Avdecha Na'alelcha Hashem Elokeinu, in the songs of David. But Shirat Hayam is not David HaMelech. Well, the reason we say it is because it's really not the ending of Shirat of Psukei de Zimra. It's really the introduction to Kriya Shema. Because what did Am Yisrael declare on the Yam? They declared, Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar bakodesh, and they concluded the Shira with the words Hashem yimloch lo'olam va'ed. And basically, they crowned the Kodesh Baruch Hu on the world in Mamad in the at Mamad of Kriyas Yamsuf. And we say that as an introduction to Kriya Shema. Because what do we do every day in Kriya Shema? We declare the Kodesh Baruch Hu is the King of the world. And you see that because we add on after Shirat Hayam psukim of Malchut. What do we say? Ki la Hashem amlucha al Moshe bagoyim. V'elu Moshe im ba'al Tzion lishpot et harisa v'ayta la Hashem amlucha. V'aya Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz. And we do the same after Kriyat Shema, before Shmon Esrei. What do we say? We say again how Am Yisrael on the Yam they declared the Kodesh Baruch Hu is the king, and we mention again Mi Chamocha Bailim Hashem how they crowned him, and then I have special kavanah these days. Before Shmon Esrei, how do we conclude the brachos of Kriyat Shema? We turn to Kodesh Baruch Hu and we say Tzur Yisrael Kuma Be'ezrat Yisrael. And that's what I feel these days when we're in the midst of a war, that we do our best, but we turn to the Kodesh Baruch Hu and ask Tzur Yisrael. Tzur means that he's like a rock, that he's strong. We can trust the Kodesh Baruch Hu for being strong. So please help Yisrael, what Yisrael are doing. So I wish upon ourselves our prayers should be accepted. And now we'll go to the Mishnah and Sota that we started yesterday, and we'll continue reading. Okay, so I'm going to share screen with us. Uh, Here we are. Okay, this we don't want to see. We want to see. Okay, so shalom everybody. Oh no, no, this we don't want. Continuing to the. Okay, we want to see this. Let me find it. Sota. Here we are. Okay, are you with me, everybody? Yes, I don't know. Yes? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So let's go. Okay. So we started yesterday the Mishnah in Sota, Mishuach Milchama, the priest who anointed the word, B'sha'ah shemedaber el ha'am b'lshon hakodesh hayam medaber. And I asked you yesterday, what's the meaning of talking in Lashon HaKodesh? Why? And Herb gave a nice idea. What was Herb's idea? The Lashon HaKodesh unites the Jewish people. And we added on Lashon HaKodesh is the words of God. So I want to expand that idea. That's what we finished yesterday with reading the drasha that the Mishnah brings. Shene'emar. I mean, how do we know that it's a special Kohen who's Meshuach Milchama? How do we know that it's in Lashon Kodesh. So the Mishnah says the following: "Shenemar v'yakel korevchem ala milchama." When you get near to the battle area, v'nigash hakohen, it says hakohen the kohen, the heya yidua. That's apparently a special kohen. And then it says v'diber. So the Mishnah says ela am belashon kodesh. Now the truth is that's a very strange drasha. And I want to show you how the Gemara explains it. How do you know that it says that the Kohen speaks to the people, that it's in Hebrew? Maybe he speaks to them in Chinese, maybe in Persian. I mean, how do you know from the words V'diber olam which language he used? It's very hard to understand. So look what the Gemara says. The Gemara says, let me show it to you. My ka'amar. You know what the words my ka'amar mean? They mean, what exactly did the Mishnah say? Because it's not clear. So the Gemara says, hachi ka'amar. Now the Gemara is explaining. Shneimar v'diber, since it says v'diber, ulahalan omer, Moshe yedaber. It's the same root, diber and yedaber. The Kohen will speak, and Moshe spoke, right? Va'elohim yanenu b'kol, Mal alam b'lashon hakodesh, avkan b'lashon hakodesh. Now, I want to explain the methodology of the Gemara and basically share with you some questions, how to understand it. You know, what the Gemara is doing here, it's a technique called Gzeira Shava. What is Gzeira Shava? When the Torah uses the same word in different places, it's like an invitation to link them together. It's like a hyperlink in computers, meaning when the Torah brings a word in one place, another place, it's like an invitation to see the link between them. Now, when can you do that methodology? When it's a word which is not a common word. If I have a word which is used twice, three times in all of Tanakh, it's really an invitation to see the linkage between them. I'll give you an example. Okay, the Torah uses the word blial. Blial means you're a very nasty person, really evil. Uses it twice in Sefer Dvarim, only twice. Once the Torah uses it about somebody who tries to convince other people to worship Avodah Zarah. Yatsa mibechem anashim b'nei Belial, ira nidachat. And he uses it one more time regarding to describe somebody who refuses to give tzedakah. Hishamer lecha, be careful. Peniyem levavcha, it should be with your heart. Blial lemor, you'll think an evil thought. So the Gemara says, wow, why is the word blial used in these two places? So the Gemara says the following: whoever doesn't give tzedakah, he's like a worshiping.
Rabbi, we're getting a siren.
Just got
Is
to
the
know
siren okay?
It's not, it
So
has started. We
this
got the,
launched, expected,
okay,
I don't expect this sound in the coming minutes.
but we can stay
okay,
on, but just let me know if people have
I
to get
think
to
it's in
Mama.
okay. So what I want to say is that besides Mark, Mark, you have a great opportunity. It's very important to feel the tzara of Am Yisrael. Okay. Oh,
I'm
you have
feeling
it.
it. I get the alerts
Right.
day and night.
So what I'm saying is the following. I will not continue until I don't know that all of you are located close to your mamad, that if we actually will have to enter, so that all of you will just close the shiur, all of you run to the mamad. So I want to know, I won't continue until I don't know that. I'm in the mamad in my house, okay? So
You're good.
We're
I'm all
good.
ready. I want to hear from everybody that they're ready, okay?
Did anyone
Yes,
else
ready.
get I did not get the alert. Did anyone else get the alert?
Are you?
No, got alerts for
It's the 5-minute warning that you might.
Tel Aviv, Rehovot.
I didn't get any alert at all.
I didn't get it.
I just want to know that you're all next to a mamad, that if there's an alert, you will go in, okay? That's all. I want the
Yes.
shiur will not cause anybody to be in danger,
Yes.
okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Everybody? Okay.
Yeah.
So now I'm continuing, okay?
Yes.
Seder, but
Okay.
if there's a siren, we'll all stop, okay? And then we'll continue tomorrow. Okay.
If you're in the Ramad, we continue with, and we go into our Mamad, we can continue in the Mamad.
Yeah, you're right, but I want to tell you, my mamad is going to be stormed by my 7 grandchildren who are here.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, it'll be nice, but I don't think it'll be a little difficult running a shiur,
Okay.
It's not a big room, okay?
Okay.
So I'm just continuing, okay? What is the equation between not giving tzedakah and worshiping Avodah Zarah? So I'll explain it to you. The source giving tzedakah is learned from Avraham Avinu, who is the first person in Sefer Bereshit who has merciful feelings, has rachmanut towards others. He helps other people. Who did he learn it from? Because he imitated the ways of God. One of the ways of God is Mahu Rachum Afata Rachum. God is merciful, so Avraham Avinu learned to be merciful. So if you're merciful, it means you recognize God. And if you are cruel, you don't give tzedakah. What does that mean? Obviously, you don't recognize God. That's like to worship Avodah Zarah. So I understand very well how you take two real words and you say, wow, they're connected together. And then you try to also explain to yourself what's the content, what's behind the idea. But the word diber, the root diber, you know how many times it appears in the Torah? Dozens, dozens of times. How do you know to link it to one place in Shmot and not to other places? So that's a question not answered in the Gemara. But I think perhaps I would like to suggest to explain it, it has to deal with an idea we saw yesterday. Who talks here? The Kohen. He's not a regular Kohen, he's the Kohen. He's a Kohen Meshuach Milchama. And this special coin is bringing to Am Yisrael, what does the word say? Ki Hashem Elokecha imach. He's basically trying to bring to us the presence of the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So it's really the words from the mouth of the Kohen are really echoing the presence of the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Now, what is that pasuk? Moshe yedaber va'Elohim yanenu b'kol. That's a pasuk from Mamad Har Sinai. And basically, what they're saying to us is that apparently, when Am Yisrael goes to war and the Kohen comes and the Kohen declares in the name of God that God is going to be with the camp of Am Yisrael, it's something there which echoes Mamad Har Sinai. And I want to add to that, the Mamad Har Sinai was Herb's idea, was all Am Yisrael together. That was Mamad Har Sinai. And there's something in war which is Am Yisrael together, to stick together. This idea we see, I mentioned yesterday the war of Midian. So Milchemet Midian, they took 1,000 soldiers from each shevet, because it has to be a war of Klal Yisrael. The Rishonim asked themselves, sometimes we blow shofar, but the Torah describes to blow the trumpets when there's a war. So the Ramban says in his Chidushim and Ta'anit, you only blow trumpets like in war when it's of all Am Yisrael. So there's something in the camp of Am Yisrael going to war that's like Mamad Har Sinai, that's all of us together. I'll add our enemies. If you think of the Iranians, they're not fighting only the residents of the state of Israel. They're fighting Am Yisrael. And it's an episode where Am Yisrael is protecting the continuity of Am Yisrael Chai. And therefore, there's something divine. Al-Kosh Baruch Hu like joins us, and he comes to our camp. Yes, we will learn that that's not for free. We have to make sure that our camp is such a camp that he would want to join that camp. Okay, that's something for the future. But if I'm concluding, how do we know that the Kohen spoke in Lashon Kodesh and what's the meaning? So we combine together two ideas. One is because that's the Lashon, the official language of the Jewish people and the wars of the Jewish people. And B, the Kohen is echoing the Shechina, and the Shechina's echo has to be in the language of the Kodesh Baruch Hu, which is Lashon HaKodesh. Okay? And from that, we'll continue to the next line in the Mishnah. Any questions, perhaps? Anybody want to ask? Mark, you want to ask? I see you leaning forward. You want to ask something?
Just it's always the balance, making sure that they use the lingua franca that the people understand the best as well. So you have the balance of speaking the Lashon Kodesh, but also make sure that people really fully understand it. So that you always have that balance. But again, Gzera Shav is a powerful thing.
Yeah, look, we have that balance in Shul for English-speaking people. We talked about it yesterday, meaning on the one hand, I think it's very important that we daven in Hebrew. On the other hand, it's very important to understand what you're saying. And what I would suggest is that make an effort. I think you are part of that effort. When you are parts of prayer, which are difficult to understand, to study them. We can learn together the Siddur. Now, what do the words mean? Now, I want to talk about native Hebrew speaking people who don't have that tension. Okay, they speak Hebrew. It's a native language. But when you reach piyutim, which use very special high language, sometimes natives Hebrews don't understand. So I encourage the chazanim before Yomim Norim. I say, learn the piyut that you're the chazan. I want to know that you understand what you're saying to Kadosh Baruch Hu as a shliach of everybody. Okay, so that's really a way of overcoming. Is also through studying, but you have to decide. It's important for you to put the effort into it. But you said it's something very, very, very correct. I accept it. Okay, so let's go now and see the.
Rabbi, isn't there also, then Chazal also tell us that there's a koach just in the language itself. They tell us many times, even if you don't understand the meaning of the words, but it's just saying the words has a
I agree.
koach.
I agree. It has a koach. It's divine words, but it doesn't mean that doesn't suggest also you also try to understand it.
Of course,
Okay,
of course, of
I mean they
course.
don't they don't conflict each other. Okay, they don't contradict each other. Okay. So let's go back to the Mishnah, okay? We're going back to the Mishnah in Sota, and the Mishnah says the following. Now let's go. We're going to the next pasuk in the Torah. Va'amar alehem, meaning the Kohen says to them, Shema Yisrael. Remember we mentioned that yesterday. Shema Yisrael, atem krevim lamilchama lo vechem. You're going to war on your enemies. So look what the Medrash does. The Medrash takes the word al oivechem. Okay, you see these two words, and it's trying to emphasize, to explain why does the Kohen emphasize its war on our enemies. So look what the Mishnah explains. V'lo al achechem. No, it's not against your brothers. It's not a civil war. You're not fighting people like you. You're fighting cruel enemies. Now look what they say. Lo Yehuda al Shimon, velo Shimon al Binyamin. It's not two Shvatim fighting each other. Because what happens when two Shvatim fight each other? So the Mishnah here is bringing actually an historical example. כמו שנאמר, ויקומו אנשים אשר נקבו בשמות. I'll translate, okay? That the men who have been mentioned by name rose up. And what did they do? Vayachaziku bashivia. They went to those who are captive. V'chol marumehem hilbishu. They clothe them from the shalal. Shalal is what they have arrayed from them. Vayalbishum, vayanilum, vayachilum, vayashkum, vayisuchum, vanalum b'chamorim, l'chol koshel. What is this episode? It's an episode in Divrei Hayamim Bet. Okay, what is the episode there? It's in front of you here on the screen. There was a war between, Am Yisrael was split in the time of the kings between two kingdoms. One was the kingdom of Yehuda, and one was the kingdom of Israel. And occasionally there was tension between them, as can be. And what the Torah and what the Navi is describing over there was that there was a war between Achaz, who was the king of Yehuda, and Pekach ben Remaliah, who was the king of Israel, and together with Melech Aram. And Melech Aram was an ally, the king of Aram, that's where Damascus is today, like Syria of today, was an ally with the king of Israel, and they together beat the kingdom of Yehuda. And look how many people they took captive. They killed 120,000 people on one day. And then it says over there, they took captive, Vayishbu bnei Israel machehem, 200,000 nashim, banim, uvanot, v'gam shalal rab bazazu mehem. They took 200,000 prisoners of war, which are Jews from Judea who were taken captive by the king of Israel, Pekach ben Remaliah, who's in Shomron. And the Navi Odeid, look at his name, V'shamaya Navi LaHashem Odeid Shmo. So he came to them and he said, look guys, Kosh Baruch Hu gave you a victory over Yehuda, but you want to take your brothers to be slaves? You want to treat your brothers the way armies in those days treated captives and prisoner of wars? You want to take them lichbosh la'avadim v'lishfachot? You're not embarrassed to do that? The Navi comes, the Navi Odeid, and he says to them, listen to me, v'atash ma'uni, v'ashivu ashivya, you have to release them Release our hostages, release the captives. Kicharon af Hashem alechem, Kosh Baruch Hu will be angry at you if you treat your brothers the way you treat prisoners of wars. So what did they do? It's described over there. Ve'yakumu anashim, people got up from the head of Bnei Ephraim. Here are their names: Azaryahu ben Yochanan, Berechiyahu ben Mishelemot, Yechizkiyahu ben Shalom, Amasa ben Chadli, Alaba'im in Atzava. They came over to the commanders of the army and they said to them, no, don't bring the captives now to give them out. What are you supposed to do? And it described, they got up, these people that we mentioned their names before, and they dressed their brothers. You can imagine if they were stripped of their clothing. So they dressed them and they gave them everything they need and they released them. So going back now to our Mishnah, the Mishnah says, you know what gives people courage? Let's try psychologically to think about what the Mishnah is describing. When you know that you're fighting somebody cruel, it can really scare you, no? On the other hand, if you know that that's what will happen to you if they capture you, it gives you more strength to fight. I mean, if you know you're fighting somebody, that if you lose, okay, he'll say, okay, go home. So you can lose. I don't know if you remember the famous story of that Biden. It's told when he came here, when the war broke out on October 7th. You remember what he mentioned there? So I'm describing you. He mentioned it was the first week of the war. Biden came here for a visit, gave us the support of the United States, and he told the following story that he was a young senator. I think he was elected when he was around 30. He came here, it was the Yom Kippur War, and he met Golda Meir, who was the prime minister then. And during the conversation, Golda Meir said to him, we have a secret weapon. So Biden said to her, what's your secret weapon? So Golda Meir said to him, we can't afford losing. We only have one chance. If we lose, we'll cease to exist. So we have to win. That's the logic or the psychology of what the Kohen is doing here. On the one hand, he's scaring them. Look, let's go back to see the text, how scary it is, He says to him, you know who you're fighting? Look, al oivechem atem olchim. Who are you fighting? You're fighting your enemies. You're not fighting people who will have any mercy on you. She'im atem tiplu bi adam. Meaning, if you will fall into their hands, ein berachamim alechem. They won't have any mercy on you. So on the one hand, he's scaring them. On the other hand, he's basically telling them the Golda Meir story. What he's saying to them is, guys, you have to fight the best you can because we can't afford losing. That's our secret weapon. That is our secret weapon. We have to win. We have to fight. We have to fight. We can't give up. Okay, the Mishnah continues to the next pasuk. Remember what's the next pasuk? The Kohen turns to the Am and he says, "Don't be afraid." And then he uses 4 descriptions of fear. One is Al yirach levavchem. Your heart should not be faint. Al tira'u. Don't have fear. Al tachbezu. Don't be alarmed. Al yirach levavchem. And what the Mishnah does is, if the Torah is using 4 different ways of describing fear, to describe 4 different methods or things that happen at war, but can cause that fear. So look how they describe it. Al yirach levavchem mipnei tzahalat susim. What does that mean? Don't be heart fainted when you hear the noise of the horses. When the horses go, You ever hear a horse? Okay. So don't be afraid of that. And don't be afraid of the tichtzua haravot. You know what tichtzua haravot are? They take their swords and they bang them one next to the other. And don't be afraid. Al tihu mipnei hagafat trisin. You know what trisim are? The soldiers that used to go with they would protect themselves with arm shields. So they were made out of metal. So they would make noise. And shifat kalgasin is the army parading. You hear the army marching. Al tachbazu mikol kranot. They would use horns. Al tachtartu mipnei kol hatzvachot. They were yelling and screaming. Hooray! Now, if you read all of them together, it's all noise. You see that? Everything is different ways of making noise. I wanted to share with you what they're really talking about it. When I was in combat, I know I don't look like that today, right? But I was in combat, okay? I was in tanks. Uh, uh, I was you fight the wars that come to you, okay? So I was drafted in 1983, and basically I was between wars. I'm honest with you. I was in Lebanon after the fighting was finished. I finished the army before the Intifada broke out. I finished before there was the Second Lebanon War. So I did a lot of what's called Tasuka Mivtzait. I did my job, you know. But I want to tell you that one of the things that are part of fighting is not only shooting one on the other, it's also the impression of the of the power of the enemy, which is many times expressed through noise. Like when we were in tanks, they were teaching us what happens if you see on the ramp, you see an infantry soldier with a missile to shoot at you. Now, these are things that we hear today. So what do you do to protect yourself? So there are a few things to do. I won't teach you everything here, okay? One of the things are aim your tank at him and start driving in his direction to make him tremble, to make him fear. The noise, you know what a noise a tank makes? Brrr, much more than a horse, okay? Meaning when you think that you hear parades of soldiers, you can imagine how many soldiers there are there. Now look, they had no intelligence then. It's far away from you, and you hear the noise, and you hear the soldiers yelling, and you hear the horses, and you hear the marching. You know what happens to you? You go crazy. It's really, you know, when you're most afraid, when you don't see them, you're just imagining who they are. So we have a case like that in Tanakh, which I think shows it very well. Do you remember the Haftarah of Parshas Metzora, the four Metzoraim who were outside of the Machane, and there was a war of Aram against I'll open it up, okay? No, I'm sorry.
Gehazi and his sons.
Just a moment. I'm gonna open it up. Just a moment. Share screen. Oops. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's go. It's in Melachim Bet. So we're gonna go now. We're gonna change a book. Okay, we're going to Melachim Bet. Let's see if we can find it. Nevi'im. It's very good to work. Okay, Melachim Bet. I think it's Perek Zayin. That's what I think. Yeah, here it is. Okay. Arba Anashim Hayu Mitzoraim. Want English? Yeah, we'll get English. Okay. Okay. There were four leprous men at the entrance of the gate, and they said, "Okay, let's go outside." And you know what happened? They said, "We'll go to Machane Aram." Okay. Well, what do we have to lose? You know, we're dying now in any case. And look how the Kosh Baruch Hu made Aram run away. V'Adonai hishmiat Machane Aram kol rechev kol sus kol chayil gadol. Hashem had made the army of the Arameans hear a noise of chariots and a noise of horses. It's mamish our Mishnah, okay? And the noise of a great army. And you know what they said to themselves? And they said one to the other, "Behold, the king of Israel is hired against us, the kings of the Hittites and the kings of the Egyptians to come upon us." Malchei Chitim. This is a wonderful description of what we have in our Mishnah. When you hear a sound of an army, you get all afraid. So you know what the Kohen says, Al Yerach Levavchem, don't look only at how strong they are. Don't be afraid of the noise. That's when the fear raises. You're really trembling. Don't be afraid. Well, why not to be afraid? We'll continue tomorrow, okay?